Hi everybody, Dream Bismark, Chief Executive Officer of New Life Covenant Church, and we are proud to present the day sessions here with this rebroadcast. All the panelists that are here and presented at our conference are experts in their field and are not people to be taken lightly. At New Life Covenant Church, we believe in the people that we have raised in our church, in our own house, and what they're doing in the marketplace to represent the kingdom of God. So take notes, take heed, and if you are blessed by this and would like to get in touch with them on any level for anything to do with your ministry, your business, their information will be made available to you when you contact info@jabulanlcc.org or go to their social handles, which will be presented at the end of their broadcasts. We thank you so much for participating, and please enjoy this, and the overflow continues.
Welcome to Conference 2022. I think that deserves a round of applause after almost a 3-year hiatus. We are back, and back in an expanded format, which is awesome. And that's pretty much what we're addressing this morning, which is growth. In business, they call it scaling, and that's just a fancy word to talk about that we are all pursuing being better tomorrow than we are today. And in business, and no doubt we can then extrapolate that to ministry and other endeavors in life, it's more than just being incremental. And we learn of the blessing of 1,000 times more. And that's so poignant for this session, because what we're looking at is not necessarily being incremental. Incremental is going from 10 to 12 to 14. What we are looking at when we talk about scale, we're talking about being exponential, which means we're going from 10 to 50 to 240 to 400 to 7,000. That's what we're talking about this morning, and we have a very, very credible panel that is here that's going to share their journey, and in sharing their journey, we'll be able to locate ourselves and also discover how in our own personal lives, our businesses, and all sorts, we too can scale. So I'll just introduce our panel once again. Thanks, Dreen. Tawanda Namusi is the CEO of Interfresh, agro-processing business in Zimbabwe. I'll give further details later. Then we've got next to him Zeph Shamba, who's the CEO of the Victory Group. And at the very end is our esteemed banker, Dr. Lance Mambondiani, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Bank ABC. With your indulgence, I'll just read a short summary so that we can all be on the same page as to what we are looking at as a topic in this first panel discussion. Now, from a definition point, we understand scaling to be about optimizing resources for long-term and constant growth in the marketplace one operates. How does one choose the right plan to allocate and optimize resources properly to grow their business? We see the blessing coming and believe, and I trust that's why our theme this year is overflow. But how to prepare and maximize that moment becomes critical. Expansion does not necessarily happen when you have money, and the economy is good. The economy is good. Opportunities can come in bad times. The right time to invest for growth is knowing your business, knowing your industry, knowing your competition, and understanding future trends. Obviously, we've just come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's a prime example of what people would have done if they knew how to scale in their respective businesses and in the church within the respective environments in which we operate. So, we're talking about growth, we're talking about expansion. Allow me to start at the far side, as it were, with Dr. Lance Mambondiani, who is a renowned business executive with vast experience in the business and banking sector. He's the managing director and CEO of Bank ABC Zimbabwe, a lawyer by training, but his main focus is in the banking sector, both local and international banking. He was once the CEO of Stewart Bank and managing director of Kingdom Financial Holdings, overseeing their premium product. Dr. Lance Mambondiani completed his PhD in banking and finance at the University of Manchester, and as you heard earlier, he is a son in the house. Doc, thank you so much for spending this time with us. Now, Doc, I think a launch point for us is to ask you, how has scale and growth in business played a role in the revival and pivot of Bank ABC? Because when we look at Bank ABC, previously it was a big, what in banking you call CIB, corporate and investment banking player, and was always known for that, and that was a speciality. You move in, and now all of a sudden Bank ABC is being talked about in the retail environment as well, person-to-person transactions. In the green room, we're talking about City Hopper, which is a local remittance service that has now become probably one of your biggest products, and it's very market-facing. So in almost, because everybody looks at the glamorous world of corporate and investment banking, we talk to business executives, we do business with big minds and all sorts, as being the pinnacle of banking. You came in and you said, no, let's go smaller, let's go to the base of the pyramid. And now that has changed the face of Bank ABC. Talk us through that journey and how that pivot has caused the business or your bank to grow.
Thank you, Barry. And again, thank you to my dad for having us on the platform. Really, really incredible being back here. You talk of scale, and I've always been a keen observer of the businesses that I believe do well in an environment like this, architecturally and also because of the way that they're structured. And my view has never changed. If you want to look at the businesses that are doing well internationally, it's platform-based businesses. It's businesses that are built to scale and not necessarily to demography. I think one of the limitations that we have when we are starting a business is that we think a lot more of demography than we think of what I call psychography. And I think the difference is you start a business and you want to do a product that fits the youth or a product that fits the old people. You want to do a business that you can sell to people in Mashonaland, Matabeleland. And I think that is a very, very old business model. If you're going to have a business that is going to be successful, you need to be able to touch and reach everybody. I think that is the success model of any business that is successful. Talk about Facebook, talk about Uber, and I think I always go back to these platform businesses because we relate to them. And I always say, imagine if Facebook were to come to you and say, I have a product for people in Zimbabwe, or I have a product for people in Matabeleland, or I have a product for this. They don't do that. They look at business, they don't care about demography, they don't care about your country. So we all subscribe to a Netflix account. We don't know where Netflix is. Netflix doesn't care about Zimbabwe. They care about customer count. So wherever that customer count is coming. So scale is important, and sometimes our limitation is because we are looking at the size of the market as almost to the size of our view, and not necessarily what we can reach, whether nationally, regionally, or internationally. So in my view, and the way that I've always said the business I run, is that whoever wants to receive financial services should get it. It doesn't matter where you are in the pyramid. It doesn't matter whether you're at the low end of the pyramid or at the top end of the pyramid. It doesn't matter whether you're in Blawayo, Mutare, or Shavane, or whatever. If you need banking services, just like if you need tomatoes, you should be able to get tomatoes here in Waitrose, in other countries. Why? Because you have the capacity of scaling your business in Zimbabwe as you are in London.
So then, just to sort of lean into that comment, because what then happens is that we begin to overthink it. So I need a product that's like Facebook, that's like this. So the issue there is, whatever you do, make it available to everyone. And the bigger you make your market, the more the opportunity to scale. Would that be correct, is it?
Absolutely. By the way, Africa is a very, very small, or some individual African countries are very, very small. If you were to look at the example of Zimbabwe, Zambia, and stuff like that, individually, we are very, very small markets. There's only so many people you can reach in Zimbabwe. And again, one of the other limitations, if you're looking at geography, is why do you have to be limited to selling your product in Zimbabwe? If you have the capacity of reaching 1.1 billion people in Africa, across Africa, if you can do it, make sure that the product you're selling is available everywhere, like you're saying, and can be reached by anybody in any market. And I think if we understand the concept of scale, if you can't scale, in Zimbabwe, at least, or rather, if you can't scale globally, at least try and scale regionally. If you guys scale regionally, and at least try and make sure that you're reaching the rest of Africa. So there is a much, much bigger market than Zimbabwe, and there's a much, much bigger market than Africa. So incrementally, we can look at the number of customers that you have across geographies and across areas, and you can see that whatever product that you produce can reach many, many other people than we sometimes want to limit ourselves to.
Okay, so Dr. Lance Mambondiani talking there about the fact that it's a numbers game. I'm going to challenge you a bit later on the issue of numbers, because do the numbers stack up is the question. But before that, let's hear from our other panelist, Zeph Shamba, who is the CEO of the Victory Group. That is an entity that is engaged in various industries across many nations. Now, Zeph, from operating in a single market segment, largely financial services, you now operate on a scale where you are in the energy sector, infrastructure development, commodities, and even sport. Beyond that, you've crossed borders, you've made major inroads into East and West Africa, into nations that many of us, and sometimes angels, fear to tread. Talk us through, and as you can see, he looks like a rebel leader from West Africa this morning. So. Talk us through that journey. Talk us through the opportunities that arose in those various sectors. Perhaps a bit of a testimonial, and we can locate ourselves in there. Zeph Shamba.
Thank you very much, Barry. Thank you very much, guys, for coming. And first and foremost, just like what Dr. Lance did, thank you very much, Mom and Dad, for allowing us to share this platform with you. I think, let me start off with saying that the amount of pressure you get from managing a company of 10 people, in terms of pressure, is pretty much the same amount of pressure you get by managing a company with 100 people and 1,000 people. So I always tell people that if you are starting something and you have no idea or mind to scale it, then you are basically, having pain without any gain. So if you are starting a company, you're starting a soccer team, you must be able to then think and say, I have a soccer team in Zimbabwe. Why can't I have, shares in a soccer team in Spain? Because it's the same problems. So for me, I think scaling is not an option. It's something that you have to have on your sort of strategy, because at the end of the day, you can't then put to waste what you are learning as a mock. So you can't have a mock company all your life. At some point, you have to scale it up. And I'll then give some sort of reference on what we have done. So most times, like what Barry said, originally I started from an finance services background, predominantly in insurance and risk management. And because of exposure to many industries, you get to a client, You go through their business profile. You then sort of give them some sort of a remedy in terms of treating their risks. But for you to do that, you have to understand the whole process from end to end, how the business is run. So I think from that point of view, you get exposed to things that you ordinarily wouldn't have gone to school for. And that helps you have a wider view in terms of what businesses are doing and where is the money made and where are the issues in a company. And most of our companies we started were basically from a lot of information that we got along the way. And I call that connected thinking. Because if you don't know something about a certain industry, it doesn't mean that there's someone who doesn't know. So if you don't know something about a certain industry, there's someone who knows about that industry. And your duty is to find that individual. And if you can't find that individual, then I think it's time for you to go on your knees, because God knows everything. So that at least you can be able to get an idea and and introspect into something that you don't know. And the reason why I'm saying so is most times, and I'm talking from a Christian background now, you would want to talk of overflow. We are talking of scaling. But at the end of the day, there are things that are supposed to be done in the God class, capital letter G. But there are things that are supposed to be done in the God class, small letter G, which is us. And you can't come to pray for things that are in the small letter G class. You gotta do. There's profit in the doing. The only prayers you have to pray are things that you can't do, but God can. I can't come here to pray for $1,000. I'll just go and withdraw it from somewhere if I have it. But if I need $1 billion for a capital expansion, that's in the God class, in my world. And I have to come on my knees and pray for that. But things that are within your domain, you have to do. And the reason why I'm saying so is, at the end of the day, with connected thinking, you get into a sphere that you were not before. And because I know, and I found Tawanda, who doesn't know. Once you are connected, now he knows what I know. And from that point of view, both of us can be able to then scale. I come in with my own area, and he comes in with his own area. And that way, that connected thinking will help us scale. There's also what I call connected emotions. There are some things that you have to get into. And I will give an example, being a son of the house. Barry came in 2018 with a proposal for us to start a team. Then it was in Division 2. And one thing that I had to pretty much listen when he was giving that pitch was to say, where is he going? Is there room for scale? That's all I was looking. I mean, he doesn't know, he's knowing now. And when I saw that, I said, you know what, I think I can jump on this thing. And it has been a very good journey because of that. But at the end of the day, because I'm a soccer lover, he's a soccer lover, what connected us emotionally was that love for soccer. So there's something that you love, that someone else loves, but your resources might be at a different level. If you connect, you are then able to scale. So at the end of the day, scaling is not all about you, in my view. And the markets that we have been in, just to give a testimony as I close, we have gotten into a number of countries now. And one person was asking me, I mean, what are you doing in Sierra Leone? And when I told them that we are doing infrastructure, they've never known me of doing any infrastructure. We are doing roads. They've never known me of doing that. I don't go and make a road myself, but I connect with those who know, and I bring my expertise in making sure that I then be able to bring skills together, and together we can scale. So I think, just as an opener, Barry, thank you very much for this.
Thanks very much, Zeph. And yeah, I think that deserves a round of applause. So you do roads now. There's one just outside my house that needs a bit of attention. I'll talk to you later. But you talked about resourcing, and I'm going to sort of lean into the issues of being synergistic and getting resources together. And for the purposes of this conversation, I'm going to call it a resource. A lot of people struggle with getting capital, money. talk a little bit about that, because all of a sudden you went from, you talked about the fact you were in mainly insurance, risk management, and now you're negotiating from a perspective of doing deals with hundreds of thousands. Now it's in the millions. Talk us through, using your journey, how access to capital.
Okay, so I think that's a serious thing. Especially, I always joke with my banker friends, and I tell them, you normally give money to the businesses that don't need the money. The ones that actually need the money cannot be able to access the money. And I'm talking from experience, because at the end of the day, as a banker, and Doc who also concur, what you're looking at is, how secure is the loan. And most times, for those who are still starting, you don't have any asset base to talk about, and it's difficult for you to attract the right amount of capital you might be, looking for. And I'll use an example, one of our local companies here. We started Victory Tobacco, that was in, I don't smoke it. I don't get it.
One of the rules is don't get high. Don't get high on your own supply.
Yeah. That's what I told Brady. I don't get high on my own stuff. So one of our companies we started was Victory Tobacco, and it was very difficult. It's so capital intensive, and for you to just buy, for example, 500,000 kgs, you need in excess of, that's almost like 3 times, about $1.5 million just for that, just for buying. I'm not talking of, giving the farmers inputs and stuff like that. So it was a tough proposition for us to say, how can we be able to scale? And we started by not going for the big thing. And I would like to address, especially AMA 2000, that, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the one step. It's something that we always know. So at the end of the day, what then happened is we got into that business, and I said, you know what, I think I need to learn. But as I'm learning, I don't want to pay exorbitant school fees. And the way we did is we partnered with a multinational, a company all of you know as 0T, that's Universal in the United States. And what we did is we got into learning how to do contract farming. Financed a small group of farmers, got the crop on the floor, and we allowed them to come and buy our crop. And people used to say, but you're just getting commission. What is that? But what we were doing is we were learning the ropes. Okay, so this is how you buy the crop. So this is the caliber of buyers you need for you to buy the crop. So when you buy the crop, it's taken from here, it goes for processing, and this is how they look at the grades. I didn't know anything about tobacco, and it's so diverse, when you get into that space. So by learning for almost like 2-3 years, when we then got into and started telling our story to would-be investors, our story was complete. I could tell you from how it gets from the field all the way to the markets, because I was like an understudy, our teams were looking out, okay, so this is how you do things. Sit down with the executives, okay, so you guys started when we bought Casali, and this is what happened. So they telling in the story. So Barry, the point I'm trying to make is for you to get to figures, there's a story first. And your story has to be watertight. So you can't talk of figures and asking for money when your story is loose. No one will listen to you. So I then saw that there are, corporate to corporate deals that you then do that have nothing to do with the banking sector. Where you go to a corporate, we're struggling in a certain area, and you say, you know what, I've got a product that has got capacity of bringing in Forex, and you have a Forex issue. And this is how I'm thinking we can be able to do this thing. From A to Z, I can be able to make this work, and when those receipts are coming, you can then be able to pick from there. They can listen to your story, and when you give the figures, they are okay with the figures.
Yeah.
So that's not even banking. So I think the problem that we do is all the time we are looking at going to the traditional sort of sources of capital and finance, whereas if you have got a watertight story, capital, follows a well thought out idea.
Well put.
Yeah.
Well put, and a good place to finish, because our next panelist is Tawanda Namusi, and we're going to lean into the issues around capital with Tawanda momentarily. Now, Tawanda is a chartered accountant with vast experience in financial reporting, IFRS, auditing, risk management, and strategic planning. He's currently the CEO at Interfresh Limited. He has been involved in capital raising exercises on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange and the private equity market. He worked across multiple sectors, which include insurance, banking, financial services, the whole lot. Okay. Manufacturing and agriculture. He is the chief financial officer. Well, he was the chief financial officer of MC Meats, or is? Was. Thought it might be. Was. So, Zeph got us onto the capital raising side, Tawanda, and to those who follow local news, you'll know that Interfresh Limited used to be a behemoth in terms of agro-processing. It was hit by various interventions, in inverted commas, where it lost swaths of land in the Mazoe area to those who are connected. And it was connected, Zeph? Oh, yeah. I don't know emotionally or how they were connected, but connected. And so it's been a rebuilding exercise.
Yes.
But what we are proud to report is that rebuilding exercise has been absolutely successful. Now, you've been at the very helm, at the vanguard of that rebuilding exercise. So talk us through that, and in particular with an emphasis on raising capital to ensure that the business actually has oxygen to move to the next level.
Thank you very much, Barry, and again to Bishop and Ma, all protocols observed, and to all our esteemed delegates who are with us this morning. Thank you very much for being with us. Barry, the question you're asking about capital, capital is the lifeblood of a business, in a sense. I will piggyback and I will cheat. Thank you for letting me speak third, because I can always piggyback off my two elder brothers. Zeph spoke about having a watertight story. Dr. Lance spoke about creating a platform. Now, when we look at things, we generally think of platforms. We think of Uber, we think of Google, we think of Apple, who are Tesla, right at the top. I think everybody talks about the FANGs. Everybody knows the FANGs, Facebook,
Amazon.
Alphabet, Amazon, Netflix, Google, which is now Alphabet. I don't know if you can still call it FANGs. But they're at the pinnacle of being multi-billion-dollar entities. But as Zeph has said, what works for a business of 10 people will work for a business of 100,000 people. The same principles that are solid and strong for a business of 10 people will be the same principles that are solid and strong for a business of 100,000 people. Likewise, what is wrong in a business of 10 people will multiply 100 or 1,000 times fold in a business of 100,000 people. So first and foremost, we need to get our story right. Now, when you come to our sector, which is farming, and I'll say this to Bishop. Bishop, we are the most faithful people ever. We are crazy enough to dig a hole, put seed, throw fertilizer, and go and fast and pray that it will rain. Ultimately, at the end of it, whether it's 7, 8, or 9 months, we generally come right because we have a harvest. We talk of yields. But in there, again, every principle that is in Facebook, every principle that is in Amazon comes straight to it. When you look at our economy, I'll speak about the agricultural sector first. There was a transformation. And in that transformation, certain people ended up on the right side of that transformation. Certain individuals ended up on the not so fortunate side. There's no wrong side. Not so fortunate side of it. And our entity was one of those. We ended up on the not so fortunate side within the context of a broader national discourse that was happening around the most vital resource we have in this country, which is land. In that now, you start to deal with the vagaries of risk when you're thinking of how you work on capital. You deal with the vagaries of selling a story. So you're not only selling a story that, oh, you dig a hole and put some seed and in 9 months you should come right because it may or may not rain. What about climate change? You have to deal with the vagaries of, because we've got plantation-based businesses, it's even worse. It's not for 6 months. It's for 7 years. So you're putting money, you're backing yourself on a bet that I'm planting this orange tree, this variety, now, and 30 years from now, that tree will be producing and it will be relevant. That is what you are telling a potential financier. That, you know what, we're smart people, we think we know what we're doing. Give us the money, we're going to plant this tree. Guess what, 30 years from now, we're good for it. That's, in simple terms, that's what
you
you're
must
doing.
be the best spin doctor on the earth, the planet.
But it happens. You go to Beitbridge along the Limpopo, there is at least 3,500 hectares of citrus that has been established there. We go to Chipinge, hundreds and thousands of hectares, thousands of hectares of macadamia are being established, avocados are being established, bananas are being established. I'm really focusing more on the plantation side first. I will come to the seasonal raw crops that we do. Your story must be correct. Now, what do I mean? When we plant and when we sell, biggest secret ever, what you find in TM Pick and Pay is the stuff that we generally don't send internationally. What you will find is generally we talk of cut 1, cut 2, cut 3. You'll be lucky to find some cut 2, or you'll be, most importantly, you'll get cut 3. When you get apples from South Africa that you enjoy, which are very nice, they are probably SA1, which is class 1, South Africa grade 1. It's not international grade 1. So from a scalability perspective, and Dr. Lance spoke about it, you're speaking about getting a business to create a platform that gives you access to any market. Now, that's my story. I'm rolling it back to...
And you're sticking to it.
And I'm sticking to it. And I'm rolling it back into, we need to access the funding. So funding has evolved over the decades. There's the traditional lending. You walk into a bank, you look for the money, put in a facility fee, and you present a story. You move into the alternative market, which is now groups of individuals are putting money together. Over time, particularly in Zimbabwe, you look at, I always call fund managers for pension funds. They're looking after widows and orphans' money. That money needs to find homes for them to generate a return. That's money that's available when you really think about it. When you really want to explore specific additional things, Zeph speaks of connected thinking. Once that connected thinking and you look at your networking, because when you scale, you cannot scale a business without a network. You are cheating yourself. You spend all your day in an office, you're in a box, you're thinking and you're compartmentalizing yourself. But when you're in networks and you speak to the miners, people in mining, you quickly realize, in my previous job, one mine actually approached us and said to us, you know what, guys? We are 100 meters underground. There's grass, there's fencing. We think cattle can roam around freely here. Fast forward now, you go to certain places, in certain parts of this country. There are cattle on top. There is an extractive process occurring down beneath. Now you're double stacking, really. That same hectare is extracting a resource and it's generating a semi-regeneratable resource. That opens you up, again, your story, to be able to pitch your story in a correct way. Now, I will also, at this point, pivot a little bit, Barry, and talk about when you pitch your story, let's not embellish facts. Here in this house, we speak of integrity. We don't embellish facts. Look, don't go and...
That's just fancy English to say don't lie.
We don't embellish the facts. We don't lie. We speak it as is. Because you know what generally happens, and Zeph knows we've got a joke. When you hear a story for the first time, we generally sort of, there's an inbuilt thing of, okay, I hear this story for the first time, where they're saying 10, let me put 3. We always say we're taking the calculator and we're discounting, you know. If you're telling us 100, we'll take 15 and see if it works. But you have to have a story that's watertight. You have to have a story that speaks end to end. In our industry, we worry about power, just like everybody else. We worry about getting better roads, as everybody else. But we tend to worry about what's happening at the port in Durban. We tend to get excited about the investment that DP World is putting into the Maputo port. We get even more excited when you hear that there is a railway service that's running twice a week from Harare through Chikwalakwala to Maputo, because we are worrying about access to markets. Now, that's a question that a funder is going to ask you. You are operating, you're a landlocked country. So how do you get your products? Are you putting it on Emirates, Qatar, to get it to where it needs to get to? Are you running it by trucks? Do you have space at the port in Durban? Durban, for us, we probably know a lot about Durban than people who stay in Durban. You know, we pray for it. We pray for the city of Durban far more than probably the people in Durban.
And Jerusalem.
for very specific reasons. You know, it's one of the busiest ports in Africa. It's a very important gateway for us to getting to China. So before macadamia, which we value add, we dry them, we crack them, we sort them out, and we send them to the Chinese to enjoy. All roads lead to Durban first before they get to Guangzhou, Beijing, Qingdao, or any of the various ports that you work on. All those stories are layers that a banker is going to peel. A potential financier is going to peel in your story. Something that's very, very important. Human capital. I think everybody has re-termed the phrase from human resource. A resource is something you exploit, in our opinion. Capital is something that you help grow in a sense. So human capital is 100% the right way to put it. Okay. No man is an island, and you achieve through others, and your collective effort of multiplying energies, efforts, common shared visions gets you over the line. So when you roll it back, let's come to Zimbabwe very practically. Most people who are doing agriculture have no access to title deeds. But for the last 3 years, a record number of center pivots have been going into the ground in this country.
I've seen them take a drive on any highway.
Take a drive any highway in any direction. The amount of center pivots. We used to wonder about Zambia and say, oh wow, look at the crop circles in Zambia. We have caught up in a space of 2.5 years. And we pursued, caught up, and we've gone further ahead. Center pivots cost money. A typical center pivot is going to cost you 45, 55,000 US, and then take your peak, stretching up. More than 300 center pivots are getting installed every year in this country, so do the math. and see how many millions are just going on the center pivots. But beyond that, tractors, you need the tractors, you need the inputs, you need all those things. So specifically coming to our business, we are in agriculture. Title deeds are something that is a contentious topic, but agriculture is moving in this country. Now, one way of looking at it is to say traditionally, oh no, I don't have title deeds, so I cannot go and leverage my asset to get money from a bank and to develop what we are doing.
So what you're saying is that the argument that there is no security of tenure on agricultural land in this country is, and therefore you can't borrow or you can't capitalize your business effectively, is a myth.
I think it is being debunked now. There's investment. There's money flowing into land without, in inverted commas, security of tenure, and it's happening. So it's factual and it's on the ground. So that's capital flowing.
Okay.
And as we have said, the traditional way is you walk into a bank. That's what we were all acclimatized to. There is that market, and it's a very important market that we can still go for. You with the right story, and when you're scaling, some end up on the stock exchange and look for significantly larger sums of capital on the stock exchange. I think I'm comfortable enough to quote the likes of Insco Africa. If you track their journey from where they started in the mid-80s to where they are now, where probably everyone in this room, somewhere, somehow you interacted with the Insco Africa product this morning. Daily. It's possible. Yeah. It's very possible, and I think I could bet a good amount of money if I was a betting man, and I would be on very solid footing. You can then move into the alternative industry, which is private equity.
They're right. I'm going to stop you there because I'm going to come back to you on the issues of private equity. But I want to bring Dr. Lance into the conversation. And apart from Tawanda supplying us with third-grade oranges.
And avocados.
What a confession. How was it? Brother sits here and tells us that, oh, we're giving you third-rate oranges. And we're supposed to just laugh it off. Apart from Tawanda supplying locally, I want to lean into the issues around the story, because it started with Zeph talking about the story, Tawanda and Namusi talking about the story. Now I want to talk to the man who's making the decisions on a daily basis. What constitutes a good story, particularly in a nation like Zimbabwe, where we all know it's volatile, it's a VUCA environment, so it's tough for anyone to think this is the time for me to scale. This is the time for me to sow literally in a famine. What story makes sense to you?
Good question, Barry. And I just wanted to look back to what my colleague said, and I was reflecting on one fundamental thing that a lot of entrepreneurs who approach bankers don't know is banks don't fund to start. We fund to grow. And there's a fundamental difference. So when you're approaching a bank and you're a startup, 99% you're going to get a no, because I don't understand startups. And remember, I'm using other people's money. I'm using other people's deposits. So because of that, the risk appetite is lower on a startup without a record than it is for somebody who is established, who is already running, who is already a victory tobacco, and has already established themselves. So when entrepreneurs come to banks, they get frustrated and say, but why are you not giving me money? I've got a good idea and stuff like that. And the second layer is like Zeph said, is money always follows a good idea. There's no shortage of money. There's always a shortage of good ideas. And ideas that are packaged in a way that makes sense. And you are always going to find somebody who is going to take a risk on you. And I think one of the limitations that we have when you're starting a business is that we think we have to start a business in production, but you don't. Sometimes you have to start a business in access to markets without production. Okay. You don't necessarily need to produce for you to start a business. You can be the one that is connecting somebody to a market, and you can be more successful than a person who is starting the business. True. But there is a lot of people who come from Europe to buy flowers here, or to buy tobacco here. They get a much, much higher return on selling that they do on the tobacco, on the flowers, because they know where to sell it than the person who is producing it. Yeah. So sometimes we need to understand where is the gap and where is the market. And I always like to say discernment is important. And when you discern, and I prefer to say that, God's gift to me, right, is my potential. My gift back to God is what I do with my potential. Okay. So you need to kind of understand, what am I good at? Am I good at producing? Or am I good at connecting people? Or am I good at, creating a story on what somebody else has done? Am I good at packaging? Once you understand what you're good at, you can sell anything. And remember, every business that is established for one thing, to make a profit, to make money. No matter what you're doing, whether you're selling water, you're selling sweets, ultimately you are there to commoditize whatever you are producing. And that is one principle. So when you say that the story that makes sense to me is one, and I can't emphasize this enough, it's already been said. If you're coming to somebody and looking for funding, the only thing that they're looking at, can it be scaled? Do you have a market for it? And does it guarantee me enough return on my investment? Because everybody invests for a return. Nobody invests for charity. Bishop sometimes does, but we don't. So when you are investing in a capitalist environment, you are investing because you believe that there is likely going to be a return. You did say something that I was reflecting in the introduction, that I trained as a lawyer. And we have this phrase in law where we say that ours is an honorable profession. It's a pursuit of justice and honor. It's not a money-making concern.
You realize lawyers are the only ones who believe that.
Absolutely. But there are some things that press limitation, and I absolutely love law. I love the traditional professions, law, dentistry, medicine. The reason I left law is because despite the fact that I love it so much, is because I can't scale being a lawyer. I can't scale my legal skills. I need to be physically present for me to build the hours.
Yeah.
If I'm selling this, I can sell it to 1,000 more people. I can sell it here, I can sell it internationally. I can sell it whilst I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
So business for me, that is making sense, and that is of the future, and businesses that are ultimately successful is not necessarily one that is, firstly, is one that you can scale and one that you can do whilst you're not there. Yes. You don't need to be physically there for you to make sure that your business is going to the next level. So the story is how credible you are and how expansive you are, and also how big your dream is. And in many instances, I think the tragedy, if you're starting a business in Zimbabwe, is that we tend to, downscale our dreams to fit our reality, right? So wow. we kind of reduce our dreams because Zakapress, because things are hard. We don't think a lot more how can I upgrade my dream so that it's actually fitting into my destiny? into maybe a bigger thought process, into a bigger market. Starting a business in Zimbabwe is exactly the same concept as starting a business in the US. Exactly the same concept. So if we understand that for you to succeed, you need to use and follow exactly the same business principles, then you know that whatever you're starting here, like I said before, simply has to be good enough in South Africa. I'm not going to buy from you because we go to the same church.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy from you because your product is good.
Yeah.
So make sure that your product and your service is good.
I'm not going to buy from you simply because we go to the same church. I'm just quoting. Emphasis on simply. But it's good for us to do business amongst one another. Zeph, just borrowing from what Doc was saying there, and what I wrote down was fire yourself. So we scale the business in order for ourselves to be less relevant in it, so that we are able to work on it. You operate in various markets. As far to our knowledge, you are not the Holy Spirit. So you cannot be in several places at the same time. You are here now, but you have operations operating in Sierra Leone and Tanzania and Malawi and all sorts. Things are happening there right now as we speak. Speak to how can we fire ourselves?
Thank you, Barry. That's a good question. So I'll speak first personally. I think one thing that helped myself is that I quickly get bored on something. So for example, we started a company, and most times the companies that we have started are companies that I would have gone through whatever we are, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, whatever it is. I exactly know how to, basically, get things done. And the reason why I do so, why I take time out to learn, is just so I can be able to be more influential and, I will be able to contribute better at a board level. And that way, I'm already starting knowing that I'm not going to be running this thing for all of my life. And the reason why you do that is it will be easier for you to leave a thing if already in your mind you have gone through the journey. And I'll give an example. In the Word of God, that is Abraham. For him to be able to go and kill Isaac, he first killed him in his mind. Him going up there and saying, now I'm going to kill, he has already run that motion in his mind.
Yeah.
So if you're going to start something and you don't first consider the cost of exit,
right,
it's going to be difficult for you to exit. But if you consider the cost of exit, you are then able to know, okay, this is the cost, and you can be able to pay it early. In other words, you can't be able to take something in, whether it's food or something else, that you can be able to digest. So most of the foods that we eat, we know we are able to process them. So all I'm saying is the idea of firing yourself shouldn't start when you've already started a company. It should start way before, just so it's easier for you to leave. And then, moreover, my duty in the group of companies that we run is for me to be able to identify what I've come to know as trends, and I think that's Schwarzman, Peter Schwarzman, from BlackRock, in the US. All It Takes, I think it's a book that he wrote. There's some that I picked from there. He says that tens, as in number 10, tens are people that are able to do stuff that can actually even shock the founder. So my duty is to be able to look for tens in each and every country, because an 8 is someone that you can be able to tell, you know what, this is what you need. You open the shop at 7 o'clock, you close it at 5, make sure books are in order, stuff like that. They'll do that to the T, and they do it so well. That's an 8. But they won't tell you, you know what, business is booming here. Let's open another shop in the next street. That's not an 8. Yeah. So you don't need to get a CEO who is an 8. He's just a manager. Yeah. Then there are 9s. 9s can be able to help you with strategy. I mean, you sit in a boardroom, they can be able to tell you, okay, I've heard about this market and stuff like that. But they will sort of suggest, they don't do. A story is told, and I'm going to use it as an anecdote, because if I then use names, people will be able to pick it up. A story is told of, a president who had problems. And many a time you would have his sort of, top guys come around, and they'll be able to tell him, you know what, boss, these are the issues. What do you think about this issue? What do you think about this issue? And it was the duty of the president to then give orders and say, okay, on this one, go and do this one. On this one, go and do this. So that means the president was always involved in the decision making at every turn. Until in one meeting, one of the guys came and said, President, we had a problem of A, B, C, D, and this is how I've solved it, and I've solved it permanently.
We know what that
means. And from there, the president was like, oh, this is a doer,
Oh, yes, he's a doer.
This is a doer. He doesn't need direction from me. And that's what I've done with many companies across. I'm always looking for a 10, who when I come into that region, they'll tell me, these were the issues, but we have solved them by doing this. And I will have then time to correct and say, okay, it's already done, but this way you should have done it. But I'm not involved in every sort of decision making. And it helps you to be able to be a small letter or omnipresent.
So you are omnipresent.
So the duty of a leader is for you to be able to try as much as you can to replicate yourself in many and get 10s. Because the idea of getting a 10, they have a higher probability of hiring more 10s. And you get things done faster and better. And you're always shocked at the scale things have gone. The other time I was going into Sierra Leone, we got into that country in 2017. But our first contract came 2 years later. But all this time it was just, trying to penetrate and all sorts of things. But I'm happy that when I go to that country now, I used to use my own money for hotels, but right now, they just tell me, when are you coming? And when you get there, everything's sorted out in that poor country, because there's a 10 there who is able to know that, you know what, it is us hosting you. You don't need to spend anything on us. So, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. I said to Zeph this morning, I said, why are there protests in your country? And he said, it's just West Africa, and smiled. Fantastic response. Tawanda, you sit over and you do contract farming, you own farms, you process. So there are lots of human capital, I think there's a lot of human capital that's involved in your business. Zeph speaks about the 10s, but you certainly need the 6s, 7s, and 8s and 9s. Talk to that for a second, in terms of striking the balance and ensuring that you have them. And panelists, if you want to elaborate on any of the points, let's keep the conversation going.
Sure, absolutely, Barry. I think first and foremost, again, thank you for making me speak third. I can always steal.
I'm coming to you first next time.
I'll borrow from Zeph. He spoke of the 10s. The principle generally is, if you're a leader, surround yourselves with guys that are smarter than you. First and foremost, if you want to scale your business, have guys that are smarter than you. They're going to come up with smarter ideas, more innovation. They're going to research more. They're going to give you better solutions. And then you are carrying a vision for the business. That's number one. Number two, we all have an expiry date. We are all going to be promoted to glory at some point. So there is no need for you to think, I'll sit at the helm forever, because you are not going to be here forever. So the idea is, just from natural law, you have to let go at some point. Then thirdly, we come back to structure. We have culture that underpins strategy, But strategy requires structure to also blossom, in my opinion. And in that structure, that's where you have your, they call them steady eddies if you are anglicizing the whole point. You need that guy who knows that, right? I wake up, I go and check the pumps, I switch them on. At 6, I switch them off. At 4. It's small, it's a small little thing. Talking about the Bible, we talk, you talk of precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. I think there's a bit of an element, particularly for us in agriculture, there is an element of trying to undo the microwave society that we are in, the instant, now sort of scenario. So there are certain individuals that are there. The guy knows that I need to spray. I need to spray consistently, because when he sprays consistently, it allows you to be able to have better markets. So there is discipline associated with that. But in there, you need a 10. You need that innovation guy, the cleverest guy in the room, who will actually tell you, actually, why are we using a tractor to spray? Why don't we hire an aeroplane and do an aerial spray? We're going to do the work 5 times faster and probably 50% cheaper. It looks like a pie in the sky idea until someone clever enough to decode and deconstruct that will be able to sell that solution for you. You need that person who, when you are pushing out your product into your market, they are the quality checker. They are your ladder holder. They are looking at it and they are telling you that's not the right quality. And for us, the most fascinating thing in our business is, it is the women, very simple women, who look with their eyes and tell us this product is good, this product is not good. I myself have got no capacity to do it. I've tried to learn it and I'm getting better. But we have people who do that for us. And
that's why the Bible says it's not good for man to be alone.
Absolutely. So Barry, you need all those individuals. Their job is wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. They are going through hundreds and thousands of kilograms of a product. They look at it and obviously the learning curve gets shorter. They are able to see things that you can't see, in a sense. So you need that. Again, you need that person that has an eye to look at a macadamia nut and tell you that's not good. Right? As it's going through the line, yes, we have infrared scanners and color sorters and everything, but there are certain things that you just need that human eye. So you cannot not do without it. So in a sense, you have everybody playing a different role. Bishop taught at one point where he said, look, we are all superior and inferior to each other in the same breath. So in this room, we are all superior to each other in one respect, but also completely inferior to each other in a different respect. So that in itself, when you translate that principle into business, there are things that a lower, a person doing, presumably, I don't like the term, but Patterson, these guys will tell you there are higher grades and lower grades, but people doing certain responsibilities that may look fairly innocuous. But take that person out and see if you can function.
Okay.
So that's what you need to always be very clear and watch when you look at your human capital.
So in essence, it's the aggregation of all of our combined abilities that makes the dream work, as they say.
Yes.
Doc, I wanna talk about your previous assignment. You you rocked the financial services industry when you took over at Stewart Bank. Took over a bank that was rebranded to Stewart Bank from another name that was probably maybe just cracking the top 10, and scaled that sucker until the bank was, in terms of the magnitude and number of depositor size, the biggest bank in the country, Stewart Bank. Talk us through that in summary. How on earth did you do that? And then also, you rocked up bank CEO, not wearing a tie, to the RBZ, which was sacrilege. So you broke convention. And why I say that, I would like you to also speak to disruption and the ability for being disruptive, giving us an opportunity to scale.
Very difficult one, but I realized when I had the privilege of getting this Stuart Bank assignment that you're coming in as a small player in a market which has a lot of other very established players. And one of the things that was my guiding philosophy at the time, and still is my guiding philosophy now, is that you have to be different. And I always say that the opposite of courage is not cowardice. It's conformity. It's uniformity. Because all of us wants to do exactly the same thing.
To fit in.
Absolutely. So if you are now use examples, if you are a Barclays, a Standard Chartered or NMB, you want to be a better version of the other.
Yeah.
But you can't stand out if you are trying to be a better version of the other. You can only stand out if you're trying to be different than the other. I think we remember BMW because it's different. We remember Mercedes because it's different.
Yeah.
And I then realized that, for you to succeed, and this is true for any innovation, is people don't buy into your similarity, they buy into your difference. So if you were to bring something that is absolutely different, whether it's in product, in service, in whatever you're offering, people will notice that this is different from convention.
Yeah.
And I think for me, innovation is simple. You use the word sucker, so I'm going to try and drain on that as much as possible, and also use another word and say, when you're innovating, there's only one principle and rule of innovation I have, is that if you're innovating, just identify the things that piss people off. If you see what really makes people upset or angry because something is not working in a particular way, then you've already innovated. Because you can see something that's not working, you can make it better. Whether it's
seek out the pain. Where's the pain?
Seek out the pain. If you identify where the pain is and what you can make it better, you can actually be one of the greatest innovators, because you are providing a solution for something that has been broken for a while. Because the idea of convention is that we like to stay in our comfort zone, to do these things in the way that we have always done them over many times. So when we started the business, we try and say, how can we go outside convention? Whether it's in dressing, or it's in socks, or it's in the way that we are offering banking, we wanted to
Your
make
socks
sure
today are very modest.
So we wanted to make sure that we are doing it in a way that it has not been done before. And I think for me, innovation and doing something different, launching a product, you always need to identify what you're bringing that's different onto the table outside convention.
I mentioned Doc's socks because he's the biggest proponent for happy socks in the nation of Zimbabwe. No, thanks.
Life is too short to wear boring socks. I've always told you.
Life is too short to be wearing boring socks. All right, we've got some questions here, guys, and I'm just going to throw them out there, and we can field them as we wish. The first one is the quote, "Fake it till you make it," true, especially in the context of marketing? Marketing a product and service that is not built for scale or not ready for the influx of business. This one I'd like Zeph to take first, because this is a man who comes from the financial services industry, and all of a sudden you're talking tobacco. And then the next minute you're talking about the thickness of a road, and tar, bitumen, and all such like. Talk to us through, is that phrase real, necessary? What's your comment on that?
Okay, fake it till you make it. I don't know what you're faking, but just maybe to give context. If you are not failing, chances are you are playing it safe. I think that's one thing that I can say in business.
Repeat that.
If you are not failing, chances are you are playing it safe, and there's no money in safety. You have to take some risk, you know. So
unless you're making safety shoes,
you know, yeah. So maybe just to then, you know, piggyback on that and give some sort of an example of what we did. Most of the things that we have done, there are times, and now I'm trying to speak to someone who is trying to, you know, maybe start a company or they're trying to scale or grow. There are times that you don't know, you know, where you're going, basically. You have an idea, you have a vision, you want to do what you do, but for you to get there, you can only connect the dots, you know, from the end, coming the other way. And you can only be said to be courageous if you have gone through the test. Otherwise, you know, you're not courageous. So at the end of the day, what then happens is I can maybe equate this to a wire walker. I think those who used to see those guys on First Street way back, there's a guy who would like walk on a wire, and they are all over the place. I've seen one in New York. You know, the wire walker is able to walk from this end to the other, one step at a time, eyes fixed on the target. They don't look down and say, oh, there's no net, you know, in case I fall, someone is gonna, you know, take care of me, or, oh, I'm really like 20 meters high. How am I gonna do that? So, if you can be able to, and I'm trying to debunk the issue of fake it. What I can say is, give an overview of where you want to go. And you don't wait until you've got all the ducks in a row for you to launch something. Because there's inertia that is created and momentum that is created when you are on the road to Emmaus. There's someone who's going to come and jump into your conversation, and they'll break bread with you.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, it's just like you're driving at night. I'll actually give that example. I want to drive from here to Borojo. The only distance that I can see as I'm driving is probably maybe 50 meters. That's all I can see. But doesn't mean that I can't get to my destination. I don't need to see Borojo for me to get there.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So that's why I say a wire walker walks one step at a time, eyes on the ball, fixed at the target. So the faking aspect of it has to do with you knowing that there's somewhere I'm going. I'm selling this thing, it's not yet complete, but I know I can be able to get to that place. It has to be something in you, in the words of Bishop Intlizio. You know, it has to be really deep in you, and that will then carry you. So I'm trying to avoid using the word fake it, but with products, sometimes you want to test out the market. You can, you know, throw something in there. It's not faking it, but you're actually testing the waters.
Yeah.
And once there is buy-in, you can then scale it. So the issue of fake it without a strategy, I think it's a bit of suicidal.
Yeah.
Because now talking of emotional gap, if you keep doing something and you keep getting the same results, fail, you will get to a point where there is an emotional gap. And when that emotional gap is created, what you then do is you then look at the possibilities. Why am I failing? And most times, if someone is hitting you every day and you can't be able to, you know, equalize, you know, the next thing that you're going to say is then, okay, I think this guy is beating me because there's something wrong about me. So before you know it, if you're faking something over and over again and it's not getting anywhere, you then turn back against yourself and say, I think there's something wrong about me.
And belief
you
starts
won't
to
try
die.
again. Yeah. So I think that's how I can.
That's well put, and I didn't miss the soccer analogy in there. In fact, I can attest to that because when we came together and started Golden Eagles Football Club, we declared that we would be the first Zimbabwean football club to win the CAF Champions League. And so, albeit that we were playing in Division 2 at the time, everyone in the organization understands that every game that is played is another step closer to winning the CAF Champions League. We're in Division 1 now. We're in a championship race, looking for promotion into the Premier League, but it's all going to there. That's the North Star. So absolutely understand that. Next question. This one is from @Tudor Junior Bismark. I have no clue who that is. There is business, but we're a church / Christians. Faith versus the numbers. Where is the balance when building and expanding where the numbers absolutely don't make sense? So scale applies to business, yes, but it applies to us as a ministry, to the church, the broader church, to the leaders of ministries who are here. Perhaps, panelists, we can talk to that. Faith versus numbers. Who's going to take that one? Tawanda, that one you can't borrow. A response from the other panelists. In fact, thank you, Doc.
You might as well
Tawanda, that one is for you.
Okay, faith versus numbers. So I'll start off in my comfort zone. I'll start off in business, and then we'll bring it into the ministry as well. There is always something that they call a dose of reality, right? Again, it's so nice being a son in the house. Bishop has a million quotes that we can pull out of. Bishop Bismarck has mentioned before that, number one, take advantage of an opportunity during the lifetime of an opportunity. So yeah, when we are all jumping around and being charismatics, we must also take the heavy nuggets as well. What that means is, I just want to touch on something that Zeph was
Sure.
Then I'll move on to that particular question. When you're pitching and when you go to market, I just wanted to add to what Zeph is saying. An opportunity is there, but an opportunity has an expiry date, right? And when this revelation came, the way I understood what Bishop taught at the time was an opportunity or an idea is not exclusive. So it can drop to 4 or 5 different individuals at the same time. The individual that is going to apply faith and mix the kingdom is going to exploit that opportunity to be able to then take it from the spiritual realm into the physical realm to allow it to come into manifestation. So what one must do when you talk of fake it, in quotes, till you make it, I replace it with exude confidence. Be realistic and exude confidence. And go for the opportunity.
Believe.
And believe. 100%. Thank you. When it comes to the faith and the numbers, we always start by working on budgets as businesses. So we start off, we intend to make $1 million or $1.2 million. We're going to make 100,000 every month, and so it goes. When you come to scale and creating a platform, you must always then look at your platform. Can it handle what you are saying? You want to be at a $100,000 level a month. Break up your sales by unit. Look at the people responsible for selling a unit. And you quickly see the math. One of the things we always say, figures are stubborn. You can negotiate with a figure all you want, but if it's in the red, it's in the red. If it's in the black, it's in the black. If it's 5, it's 5. You can't make 5 become 6, no. That's how it works. So when you look at that, your structure, your platform is going to determine how many inquiries can your customers handle, how many telesales operators can you handle, how many call-outs can you do if you are a business, and you are looking at it from a perspective of, I have the faith to do $1.2 million. But I am selling 1.2 million bottles a year. How many customers do I have? What's my distribution strategy like? Do I have the skill to make it happen? I will pivot now, Barry, and look at it even from a Christian perspective. There is, in my view, there is, and I'm going to take it here, maybe a little bit controversial. We have what we call lazy Christians. You know what? You hear the word off the pulpit, you hear the prophecy or the impartation. Right, I have an impartation. Bishop says I'm going to be a very successful. Maya has preached for me, she's prayed for me, and when she prayed for me, the word of God came and said, you will be a woman of stature in a Tuesday women's meeting. Then, it's happening, it's coming. God's word will not return to him void. You know what?
The scriptures get worked out.
The scriptures start coming. But from that perspective now, you are a Christian. There is work to be done. Just like you know, and you have been taught, as soon as that word goes out there, it's coming to locate you. But just like Daniel, when he prayed, what happened? There was a canopy, a demonic canopy, isn't it? And the response would not come, isn't it, at that time? There is work to be done. So in tackling that question there is a dose of reality, number one. But number two, there is work to be done. Okay. So you cannot just rely on, I have faith that I can grow my sales, but you're not focusing on how are you going to get your marketing right? How are you going to get your distribution right? How are you going to enhance and expand your network? Without that, then yes, you can have all the faith you want, but there is work to be done. There was elbow grease that needs to be expended for you to be able to reach your destination.
So I'm going to just confirm with an example of Coca-Cola. When Pemberton started, or Dr. Pemberton stumbled upon Coca-Cola, it was only, I think it was 1892 or something. He sold the business to a guy called Candler. And it was operating in one state in the United States. And he realized that he couldn't scale the business if he held onto it. So he realized that in nearly every state in the United States of America, there were companies that were bottling drinks, soft drinks, and all sorts. And then he opted to give them license agreements for them to bottle his product without necessarily giving them the formula, and they could sell it in those states. All of a sudden, I think within a period of 6 years, Coca-Cola was everywhere. And now there was not just one business making money off the same product. There were 50-odd businesses making money off that same product. And now we know the story of Coca-Cola. We have bottlers here and all sorts. But it's still the Coca-Cola company. So I think that speaks to what you were referring to there, Tawanda, from a business perspective. All right, one more question from @berto.com007. I read it as I see it. Scaling by shrinking or streamlining your business. That is, staff reductions, technology advancements. Speak to, number one, the negative public perception. How do you deal with that? And then secondly, finding room for people who are legacy but don't fit the new model. That number two is a very interesting one there, because we want to scale, we want to grow, but we're human beings and we have emotional attachments and connections, Zeph, to people who may not necessarily be good for where we want to go? Doc?
I think the most dangerous people in any business is those who hide incompetence behind experience, right? and we tend to have a lot of those. And that you have people in business who say, I've been here 20 years.
Yes.
So you can't tell me, who are you? You came here today and you want to tell me how to do something different. And I think my principle in managing any business is that you need to identify your human capital and where you can position them. And I prefer to say there are three categories of employees. Firstly, you have those employees who are agile, who are really, really young and risk takers. Always put those in the front because they are going to run for your business as much as possible. They're going to make mistakes and they're going to do all sorts, right? And then in the middle, you put the, what I prefer to pay is to say your experienced guys. And your experienced guys are the ones that rein in those who are running, the youngsters. And then giving them a little bit of direction on, yes, you have this great product, but let's kind of analyze it a little bit in this way. At the back, you then put your defenders. And your defenders are perhaps those people who have been established in the business a little bit longer. Never put your defenders at the start, because they're always going to tell you why they can do it. Because in essence, when you are, and it's human nature, when you've been looking at something for so long, you're not likely to find a solution for it. You're going to find a comfort in why you should not do something different.
Yeah.
So identify your human capital, where you should place them, and also identify that, it's important for all of us to realize that the future is not a competition of knowledge, right? It's not a competition of knowledge. It's a competition of how we apply what we know.
Okay.
Because we're not going to compete by how many PhDs we have or by what degrees we have. And I prefer to say this everywhere I speak, that Google knows everything now.
Yeah.
So you're not going to tell me something I can't Google. Mm-hmm. I can probably Google it much faster than you can remember it. So we can't say that we are competing because we went to school, because we have PhDs. We're competing because we have the capacity of applying knowledge based on the experience that we have and making it relevant to the present. So we need to realize as young people growing that we don't necessarily have to be what we learned in school. We don't have to be nurses, to study medicine for you to be an essayist. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be, a lawyer for you to study law for you to be in legal. You can be a banker.
Yeah.
You can be anything as long as you realize that there is the flexibility in who you are as a human being and what you can actually become with your future.
Well answered. Any additions there, guys? There was another element of the question, the first part, which was shrinking or scaling down so that you can scale. There's a danger that people will be like, he's done. And yet you're just taking a step back for you to move forward. How do you manage the public perception? How do you deal with the confidence or lack thereof, or the reduction of confidence that comes as a result of taking such an action?
Okay, I think let me just add something on that. And most times, if you fail to adapt or you're not malleable and flexible, obviously it's almost like a do or die. You're the one who's going to break at the end of the day. And in business, you are not your interest is opportunities. That's the business interest. You're looking for an opportunity that you can be able to monetize. And if you are now in a business of, I normally tell people, and I think it was supposed to be something that we would have done at the introduction, because you can't just start by scaling without growing.
Yeah.
So growing is basically you were selling 1, now it's 2, now it's 3, but you are basically having the same margin. You are growing, your revenues are growing, everyone can see it. But there comes a time in companies, and I've seen it in some of our organizations, where you actually sit down and ask yourself, what business am I in? Because maybe your business at that time, if you then really look at it, you are in the business of paying salaries.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone else is getting paid, but your equity is crashing.
Yes. Yeah.
So one might, see a very big company and say, "Oh, wow," but their core business is paying salaries.
Paying salaries, yeah.
So if it comes to that, I think it's either the business is going to survive, or your equity is going to decimate. And a decision has to be made. Number one, via your peer, where you actually, so you've seen most people who are in like workers' committees and stuff like that. They are always voted out. And why? Because people who are voting them in to be in the workers' committee, after a year, they say, these guys are now corrupted. We thought they were going to change A, B, C, D, but I think they were given money by management. Now they no longer represent our interests.
Our interests.
Yet, most times, though, they've been told, guys, this is how you make money, and these are the issues. So if you say you want salary increase for this, that means this company is going to close.
Yeah.
Then they will, okay, now we know. We didn't know. And then they become docile. They are voted out, someone else comes in. So I think the PR aspect is also key, just so you can be able to tell people, to say, if I'm going to keep you, this is what it means.
Yes.
So that at least the decision is now no longer personal. A person is saying, okay, so my being here means that the company is going to close. And if the company closes, these lives are at stake.
Yeah.
I think I better move away.
Yeah.
Please give me my package, I'm good to go. So I think that's how I can respond to that.
Brilliant. Gentlemen, we're fresh out of time, so I'm just going to give us each a moment for final thoughts, starting with Tawanda.
Thank you, Barry. I think in just rounding up, I will address the last question just for 30 seconds, and then just round up. Sometimes when you scale back, take the view of an archer with a bow and arrow. For the arrow to be thrust and propelled forward, you have to pull back
the bow.
first and foremost.
Yeah.
That's number one. Sometimes you need to shrink to grow. It's also very important. Then lastly, sometimes the business model would have expired. Some businesses, Nokia, Kodak, the business model was expiring, and the dynamics were shifting and changing, and the boardrooms of the time perhaps were not able to do that. Another quick analogy, and I'm sure, I haven't researched this, but I'm sure I'm correct, that Bill Gates' net worth actually grew much faster when he stopped being CEO of Microsoft.
Yeah.
After that, it just continued to grow and grow and grow. And it was also for him, he stepped down, he started focusing on certain additional things. So it's sort of like you are growing down. You're not necessarily shrinking. You are growing down to allow yourselves to catapult. And then just my last parting thoughts is, as we have said, for you to scale, you need the platform. You need the infrastructure that comes with a bit of, that assures you sustainability and gives you the best chance to be successful. Thank you.
Zeph?
All right, I think I'll part by maybe giving us some sort of, take home, stuff that we need to pray for and also watch out on. There's what is called the net present value of doing bad. What do I mean? And it's something that is rampant in Africa. As you go out there, you want to scale, some of you want to go into other jurisdictions. They normally say that there's corruption in Zimbabwe. But when I moved up north, I was shocked at the scale of it. And in some,
You realized Zimbabwe is amateur.
I was like, you know what? I can live with that. And in some meetings, people are so like open about it. They say it out. I was told when I was in, I think it was Kenya the other time, someone just came out and say, "Oh, so you're coming here in our country and you're not bearing any gift." And in my thoughts, I took it lightly. But coming out of that meeting, the CFO of that organization then told me, "You know what? I'm a Christian too." I mean, that's what he said.
Now that's already a problem when you hear, "I'm a Christian too."
And I can see that you are worried about this. And then he gave me a scripture which got me thinking. Then he said that, a man's gift opens and it brings him before great men. And I'm saying all this to say, then coming back to my issue of the net present value, to say that if the cost of being caught doing the wrong thing is less than the benefit of doing the wrong thing, the net present value of doing bad is positive. In that people will keep on doing bad. And in Africa, it's something that we really need to pray about. And also, more so, besides praying for faith without works is dead, Tawanda. Besides praying, there's a saying that you can catch more flies by using honey as opposed to vinegar. That means you can be able to correct more bad by doing more good. So I think in our areas of influence, we are brought out there as kingdomites to influence, not to try and get into a system and say, "I'm going to dominate it." Be like salt. Just need to a sprinkle of it. Every time you are with those guys, sprinkle something. They will look at your life, you are sprinkling something, until they Nicodemously come and say, "Tell me, what were you saying about that thing?" Yeah. So it can actually work without doing this. And bit by bit, you are like yeast. You then influence the outcome. It's difficult, but I'm just giving guys to say, let's go ahead and do so as we scale. Thank you very much.
As we scale. Sure. Doc.
Thank you. I just wanted to lend as well a couple of parting shots, starting with where Zeph ended. That as Christians, in many instances, we hide behind our faith and thinking that is what is going to give us the edge. Sometimes it doesn't. And I think faith without works, like he said, is dead. And I like to borrow from where he comes from. God is not from your village, right?
Yes.
There's good everywhere, and God favors those who are Christians as He does those who are not.
Sure.
So we need to identify and realize that our distinctive advantage is the fact that if we were to apply the action together with our favor, that comes from knowing Christ. That's where our competitive advantage comes from. And secondly, I just wanted to again say is the danger in an environment like Zimbabwe is that 90% of us always want to be in the middle, which is to think exactly the same thing, do exactly the same business. And if we know that my neighbor is selling chickens, we want to sell chickens because it's easier and because that's what we know. For us to succeed and to compete with the rest of the world, we have to make sure that we are having audacious dreams, audacious thoughts, and businesses that are competing internationally and not necessarily in the chickens we sell. We need to realize that business is war, and business really just respects those who understand their principles and and how to do it. And lastly, Zimbabwe is such a polarized environment. I think we know it. We live in it for many reasons. We need to realize that for you to succeed in business, sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody needs to fail for you to succeed.
Yes.
We can all succeed together.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more power in us forming collaborations and identifying where you are weak and where I'm strong, and making sure that we are combining ourselves for greater effectiveness. And I think if we were to do so, we'll probably go far as a nation. And I also believe that we'll do so. I know I said lastly, but lastly.
We're in church, so it's okay.
One of the greatest thing that really pains me is the way that we carry ourselves. Sometimes we use our culture of respect to make us into timid people.
Yeah.
I think business respects those who are confident. It respects those who are going. Life and business doesn't give you what you deserve. Gives you what you negotiate.
Yeah.
And then I think I prefer to say, yes, we are humble people. Let us be humble, but let us not be timid.
Timid, yeah.
Yes.
Because humility is a virtue, but timidity is a disease. Thank you very much. I think I'll start.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Sorry,
Le-
sorry. You know what? I just need to say something from what you said. Thank you very much, Doc. So, humility has its place.
Yes.
But what I've seen most times, and I'm going to be controversial, so that at least I can be able to provoke action from the pew and all of us.
Sure.
You can't. You have no option but to be humble if you are poor.
Yeah.
Because most times they are going to ask for someone to do something for you.
Yes.
You've got to be humble.
Yeah, yeah.
But the test of humility comes when you have got resources.
When you are.
So as you go out there, know that your humility is yet to be tested.
Yes.
and then lastly,
Yeah.
I'm a mom's boy. 2 minutes. I'm a mom's boy. And in his book, Chinoa, Things Fall Apart, he says that when you say yes, your chi says yes. So in everything that you're doing in your life, say yes first.
Yeah.
And your chi says yes.
You had to finish with a West African quote. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let's just appreciate our panel. Tawanda Namusi, CEO of Interfresh, producing the best oranges, fruit, macadamias in the region, and providing only the best to Pick and Pay and us in Zimbabwe. Zeph Shamba, the CEO of the Victory Group, a financial services man who's building roads. And ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Lance Mambondiani, the CEO of Bank ABC Zimbabwe. Life is too short to wear boring socks.
Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Barry Manandi. It's been an honor to moderate with these legends already of Zimbabwean and African business. Thank you so much, brothers and sisters. Overflow.
Wow, wow, wow. What an incredible, incredible service. We want to thank you for watching this rebroadcast of Jabula International Conference 2022, The Overflow. What an incredible, incredible session. And it was one of so many that blessed people. We thank you for being patient with us as we put this program up. Again, please share this message with somebody, like, subscribe to all of our channels, New Life Covenant Church and Tudor Bismark Ministries. And also, thank you for your donations, your giving. Your contributions to our ministry is what makes Jabula Conference and everything else we're doing as New Life Covenant Church and Jabula International possible. You reap the benefits of your sowing, and we are able to do the work of the kingdom of God. We want to thank you. God bless you, and we'll see you again.